And here's another one that I know just got crammed into a box, but chances are this one might have actually survived. It's a school record player, and it takes a lot to kill them. And yeah, that's exactly what they did. I wonder where they come up with these boxes that are just the right size for the item to fit in. All right, let's get it out and see what we got. Come on. We'll say this was a cheap purchase, so it may be one that gets used for parts anyway, so it ain't no huge deal. Okay, what do we got here? I see an idler wheel hanging out from under everything. Well, he did do more than the last guy did. He at least taped the tone arm down to the wrist. So what do we have here? Ream Califone 1440. And this mat looks like one off of a Newcomb record player, which is good because what was on here originally was one of those old horrible foam rubber mats. It likes to crumble and disintegrate. But yeah, it looks like it survived, except for the wheel coming loose, and I feel like that happened because somebody didn't put the clip back on. That's okay. I got enough junk. I ought to be able to come up with a clip somewhere. Alright, I can hear the motor running. The amp appears to be working, but the cartridge is dead. Cabinet's in fair shape. It needs a good cleaning. Unfortunately, all this is kind of rusty, so if I want to make this look like anything, it's going to have to be sanded down and repainted. At least the actual motor board itself is okay. Alright, standard General Industries mechanism, but of course we're missing the retainer clip for the wheel and the washers that go on here. If I'm lucky, they'll be floating around in the bottom of the cabinet, but I'm not holding my breath. Alright, let's get it open and see what we got. Alright, I pulled it apart, and the only thing I'm finding inside of this unit is a lot of dirt. And looking at the motor, there's some noticeable side-to-side shaft play, which means the bearings in the shaft is worn down from this thing being literally ran into the ground and not being properly lubricated. It's been my finding that these motors, if you keep them properly lubricated, they'll run for decades, but if you don't take care of them and just run them for 40 or 50 years without any kind of lubrication, and this is what happens. Here's the amplifier, not much to it, a 12AT6 driver tube and a 50L6 audio output tube and a silicon diode for the rectifier. Califone, they were out of the four makers, Califone, Audiotronics, Newcomb, and VM. Califone seemed to be the lowest end, but they still performed well. And also, I think Califone was one of the first ones to pretty much abandon tubes. The date code on the motor in this model is the 50th week of 65, so this was probably made in early 66, and I think by then they had pretty much moved away from vacuum tubes except for a couple of entry-level models, this 1440 and the later 1410, which is basically the same record player except it's blue instead of gray. And they might have kept one of the entry-level transcription players as a tube type for up until about 66 or 7, but I think for the most part Califone was one of the first to switch to solid state. In fact, I have a solid state Califone, a 1430, that looks identical to this, only it uses a solid state amp instead of a tube one. think Audiotronics hung on to tubes up until about 69. Newcomb was the last tube holdout. Even though they had solid state stuff in the mid-60s, they still made some tube classroom phonographs and some tube classroom radios up through the mid-70s at least. As far as the front of this can be easily detached from the motor board, so getting this off and sanding it down and repainting it wouldn't be too much of a chore. But I'm starting to wonder if this is even worth fooling with. In all actuality, I could use this 5x7 speaker in another project, and I could use this tone arm on another project. And, you know, in situations like that, I have to ask myself, is it worth investing all of the time and labor in this beat-up thing versus finding another one that's in better shape and using the parts to fix something else, or do I just go all out on this one all because I can? If I bought the tone arm and speaker off of eBay that I need for these other couple of projects that need those parts, I'd spend more than what I spent for this whole record player. So I don't know, you tell me what you want to do. If you want to see me go all out and overhaul this, I might just do it. But I'm starting to lean more towards using this for parts. And a while back, someone messaged me needing a motor for a Newcomb AV10, that their motor had the same thing wrong with it as this one apparently does, and I haven't forgotten about you. I just haven't dug out one yet. You know, when you got so much junk over here you have to dig through, but to find something, and that's my fault for collecting so much stuff, but I will find it before long, and I will send it to you. But yeah, even though I could overhaul this, it's just a question of, is it worth overhauling? And just because it's old, that does not mean it's worth overhauling, and that's something I can't convince some people of. Now, if this was some rare, one-of-a-kind item, then maybe so, but you know, these do turn up from time to time in better shape than what this one is, and I already have a 1410, which, like I said, is the newer version. Mine's from 70 or 71, and it was definitely their last tube model, and was like the one that my elementary school was heavily populated with in the 80s. So, you know, seeing as how I have that one, then I just don't know that it's worth me going all out on this one. If it was in better cosmetic shape, then maybe so. And you can see on the bottom where the case covering is starting to peel off. So, yeah, this thing was definitely stored in a not so great environment. Probably the school system that it came from took a bunch of them out of service, and they sat in a unclimate controlled location for the next 30 or 40 years until they finally decided to auction them off and get $10 for the whole pile, when they could have sold off the things when they were in better condition and got more money for them. But you know, that's the government for you. Alright, anyway, I'll give this some thought, and if I decide to overhaul it, you'll see another video, and if not, you won't see another video.